All right, we're gonna just wait a couple of moments while everybody loads into the Zoom. All right, I think we still have a few people trickling in, but we'll start with a little bit of housekeeping information. Welcome, everyone. My name is Rochelle Ehrman. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission here at CMC, and I am joined today by my colleagues from all of the Claremont colleges. They will all introduce themselves as we go through this, and as well as some of our colleagues in the background. So, as we go through this, there is a Q&A function in the chat, or a Q&A function in the Zoom. We ask that you put your questions there, not in the chat. So if you have questions throughout, we will have our colleagues typing answers throughout the presentation. We will also be putting some aside to answer at the end of the presentation, but we ask that you put them there. So that's the Q&A function, not the chat. And all right, let's see if this wants to work. Okay, so we are going to get started with our agenda. So first, we're going to do an overview of the Claremont Colleges and introduce our consortium to you. And we'll talk about the shared resources. And then we'll each have a few minutes to give you an overview of our college, each individual one, and then there will be a Q&A available. So again, we'll set some of the questions aside for a Q&A at the end, but we'll also be answering questions in the Q&A boxes throughout. So if you think of something immediately that you want answered, you can put it in the Q&A. If you think of something later, you can add it later, and we'll be monitoring it throughout the presentation. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about what all of our colleges have in common. So we are 5 small undergraduate liberal arts colleges that are all right next to each other, which we'll get to see a little bit more of as we go through this. But being strictly undergraduate means that there is a focus on undergraduate students and not a competition for resources or opportunities with graduate or PhD students. We are here to serve undergraduates. We are not here to put you aside as we cater to PhD students. We are also all very individually small. So we have an average class size of 18 or less across the 5 Cs. We all have small student to faculty ratios of a 10 or less to 10 students to 1 faculty member or less. As a way to really concentrate resources and opportunities on students to make sure that you're getting to know your faculty, to make sure that you are getting to know your peers in class. We don't teach classes with 3 or 4 or 500 students in them. We teach very small classes, very discussion-based classes to make sure that you're getting a lot out of that academic experience. We also all offer research and internships. And again, being undergraduate, there is no competition for research with graduate or PhD students. All of the research opportunities on our campuses are for our undergraduate students, and our faculty come here to work with you as undergraduates. And then because we are all liberal arts colleges, we also teach all of the different disciplines: humanities, natural sciences, social sciences, the arts, interdisciplinary fields. We cover vast different types of majors here and programs to make sure that there's a little bit of something for everyone, that you can do something that you are really interested in and follow your passions. We also all offer study abroad opportunities, and we are Division III. The 5 colleges do not share one athletic team, and we do not have 5 separate athletic teams. We do, in fact, have 2 athletic teams to make it a little bit more challenging. So CMS is Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Scripps. and Pomona Pitzer is Pomona and Pitzer. So we do split it up into two. It's called the Sixth Street Rivalry. It's a friendly rivalry, but it is very important to your experience in the 5Cs. Moving on. All right. So some of you were probably watching this from all over the world. Some of you may be local, just down the street. Some of you may be on the East Coast, and some of you may be on the other side of the world. So we want to give you a little bit of a sense of exactly where we are. So the Claremont Colleges are located in Claremont, California, which is about 45 minutes on a pretty good day east of downtown Los Angeles. And you can see some highlights around here. So we do have our own local area. We call it the Village. It is not a small village, but it is a few streets that are right next to the campuses that are just really nice and delightful, and lots of fantastic restaurants. You can ask any admission officer what their favorite restaurant is in Claremont, and I'm sure they can list at least two or three because we love all of them so much. We're also about 10 minutes from the mountains if you like to hike or mountain bike. The Mount Baldy area is a really good place for that. Big Bear and further up on Mount Baldy, really great for skiing. We're about an hour to an hour and a half from the beaches, about 35 to 45 minutes from Disneyland, 2-ish hours from Joshua Tree and Coachella Valley, 2-ish hours from San Diego. So this is a really vibrant place to go to school. You have the residential nature and the suburban campuses, but you also have access to downtown Los Angeles and the greater Southern California area and the fantastic weather. It's sunny here about 300 days a year, including today. It might be kind of chilly where you are, but it is, in fact, 85 degrees and sunny here in the Claremont Colleges. So we do really have, we really embrace our local community as well as the greater Southern California community. And just to give you a little bit of a sense of how to get here, we're between an hour and 2 hours, depending on traffic from LAX, depending on when you get in. We're only about 15 to 20 minutes from Ontario Airport and about 45 minutes to an hour from Burbank Airport. We all probably would recommend flying into Ontario. It's a really smooth, easy thing to do, but obviously if you're coming from a little further, you might need to fly into LAX. And you can take buses, Metrolink from different parts of Los Angeles, and Foothill Transit and get around that way. Some of us also will have different rules about cars on campus, but we're pretty friendly to that as well. So we do really encourage you to take advantage of life here in Southern California. And to give you a sense of exactly what it looks like on our campuses. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we're all right next to each other. And I think students don't realize that when we say right next to each other, we don't mean down the street or in the next town. We really mean right next to each other. Our campuses are the only intentionally built consortium in the United States, which means that we were built to work together and to be neighbors. So it's kind of like a puzzle. Every campus is their own puzzle piece. They all go together. And you can see on your screen a little bit of how it is laid out, and you're going to get an introduction from each college, so I'm not going to get too into detail, but you should just know that this whole area is about 1 square mile, and it is completely walkable. From the very top of Harvey Mudd to the very bottom of Pomona College, depending on how fast you walk, is probably a 15 to 20-minute walk. Very easy to get around. Most students prefer some sort of bike, scooter, electric scooter, skateboard situation, but it all is completely walkable. And we are in the town of Claremont with about 37,000 people, but that's only in our very close surrounding. You go a mile one way, you're in Upland. You go a mile the other way, you're in Pomona. So we have a lot of neighbors as well. And the greater Los Angeles area has quite a few million people who live here. Claremont also has about 50+ restaurants, as I was talking about. And we are known as the city of trees and PhDs. So we do know exactly how many trees are here. That is important to us. And a lot of parks for students to take advantage of, as well as green spaces on all of our campuses. In terms of the consortium, in addition to our 5 colleges, there are 2 graduate institutions that are affiliated with the Claremont Colleges. One is Claremont Graduate University, the other is the Keck Graduate Institute. These, while they are affiliated with our consortium and some of our shared resources, the students who attend those college or universities do not teach. They do not do research on our campuses. They are not a part of the undergraduate experience outside of you might see them in the library or you might run into them in some of our resource centers and places like that, but they are not a part of the day-to-day life of a 5C student. I mentioned a little bit at the beginning the history of the consortium. We were built with the intention of working together, and the original intention was to have many more colleges. They were planning to build one about every decade in the 20th century, but we didn't quite get there. So we settled in at five, and it's working really well for us today. And I am now going to hand it over to my colleague to tell you a little bit more about the academic and other experiences at the Claremont Colleges.
Perfect. Thank you, Rochelle. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyla Fisher, and I'm an admission counselor with Scripps College. I'm also a graduate of Scripps, so can talk very personally to the academic and liberal arts experience at the Claremont Colleges. So as Rochelle was saying, we are small liberal arts colleges with seminar-style courses with under 20 people in your class. You're going to know everyone. Your professor is going to know you. It's not going to be the environment that you can skip half your classes and your professor won't notice. They'll probably email you after the first time, if not the second or third, just to make sure you're okay and send notes. So it's a very supportive and collaborative learning environment to be in. As a consortium, we share a number of resources that some of which have already been touched on, but academically, the hallmark of the Claremont College experience is the process of cross-registration. So as a consortium, we share a course registration portal where you're able to see the 2,700 courses that are offered every year, all in the same place. So a student from Scripps can just as easily sign up for a class at CMC as they could for a class at their own school. It's just the click of a button. For a number of programs that we either share or have a lot of crossover in, it makes it a lot easier for students to access the academic resources of the other colleges. So I do know there have already been some questions in the chat about how a student could access those resources, mostly signing up for the class, talking to that professor. You might be doing research with them. You could be taking a number of courses. You might be majoring or minoring at another college if there is a department that doesn't exist at your school, that does exist at that other school, that your school also allows you to do. So each of our campuses have slightly different processes as to what's available across the consortium, but it is expected and encouraged for you to engage in the other colleges, both academically and socially. So each individual person creates their own unique path within the Claremont Colleges because there are no two people doing exactly the same thing. So it really is tailored to you and what you're most interested in. For a number of our programs, we do share them, like our Africana Studies department, the intercollegiate media studies major that scriptures with Pitzer, the nucleus with us again with Pitzer. So there is a number of different departments that students can utilize by attending one school, but using the resources of a number of schools, if not all five of us, for the exact same department. So you might be majoring at your home campus, but your academic advisor or your favorite class might have been taking place a few blocks down the street. And that's really where our locations and proximity to each other are the most helpful, because the only difference between taking that one class on your home campus and another school is how long of a walk you're taking from your dorm to that classroom. But again, that longest walk is probably 15 minutes, more likely 5. So you could roll out of bed at 9:30 and get to your 9:35 class, even if you don't attend that school. So it definitely really eases the any potential difficulties to be able to access the other colleges. We also offer academic advising, both for students' majors as major advisors, faculty advisors, general mentors, as well as postgraduate experiences like going into medical school, law school, any sort of graduate program. Each of our campuses have their own individual and shared resources to support students after their undergraduate experience at our colleges. So there are a number of ways that students can both experience undergrad while preparing for their future careers, just by spending time with our community members. Then if we want to transition to the next slide, talking about student life and recreation, one thing our students love to do is eat, and there are too many options on how they can do that. So we have 17 different eateries, which includes 7 dining halls. A student's meal plan will get them into all 7 dining halls. So you could go to 3 separate meals, 3 meals at 3 different schools all in the same day. And that is totally expected. There is there's an app and a website that you can see every single menu item that's available. So you can just follow the food that you want to eat. So if you really want pasta for dinner, or you know that it's Harvey Mudd's burrito night, then you know where to go or how to talk to your friends or people you're grabbing a meal with, where you'd like to meet them. That's also a really easy way to talk to professors and staff members outside of the classroom. Maybe you just finished up a class at Pomona and you want to continue chatting with your professor. So a group of you take your professor to one of the Pomona dining halls and you continue your conversation there. The eating experience is a very social experience at the Claremont Colleges. And with so many options, it's very hard to get bored of the food that's here as well. It's definitely not I think the stereotype of college eating where you're just eating like microwavable ramen every single night. You're eating really good food. My favorite night would be like surf and turf or sushi or ramen, good ramen, and having that across the campuses on a weekly basis. There's also over 250 clubs that students can join. They might be some of our affinity groups where students of shared identities can spend time with each other. They might be about professional development, like our pre-law societies, pre-med clubs. They could be about experiencing at the Southern California nature around us. So there's On the Loose, which is an outdoor club, as well as Outdoor Women's Leadership, which we call OWL. Or you could just be doing some fun activities like Cheese Club is very popular, where you just eat cheese. You might be doing inner tube water polo. So there are way too many things that you could spend your time doing. Again, we have our sports teams at the varsity level and two teams, intramural and club, are all 5C. So if you don't want to feel separated from your friends on the opposite team, maybe you all join a club team and you spend time that way. So you can expect a number of events, resources like our student health services that'll be shared. So that way, if your like best friend from another college breaks their ankle, you can get them on over to student services, and it's the same process regardless of what school you go to. So a number of ways that students can spend their time, and I'd say the time that you feel the most integrated as a Claremont College community, because you can't tell what student goes to what school. So really hard to be discriminatory against people you can't tell the difference of. So you can really get to know people across the consortium and build really strong friendships. But we'll go ahead and transition into each of the colleges, talking a bit more about each of our own institutions. Oh, sorry, policies and practices, which kind of ties into what we'll all be talking about later. But there are a number of shared things that we require or have set for our application processes. All of us use the Common App. There will be some differences that we'll touch on in the next slide of other forms of applications that we may or may not use, but all of us will use the Common App. We use a holistic review when evaluating applications, meaning that we're really taking in the whole person that we're reading about. So the writing, the academic experience, the letters of recommendation, all of those have a strong role in how we evaluate applications and who we decide to admit. All of us require supplemental essays. So if you are submitting the Common App, aside from that personal statement that goes to every college you apply to, all of us have our own set of questions and essay prompts that we would require our students to answer to get a better understanding of how this student would be a match to our specific school community. 100%, we all meet 100% of our families demonstrated financial need. How we do that in our practices, what scholarships we may or may not offer will differ, but all of us will be meeting 100% of a student's need. We have early and regular decision options. So early, that binding agreement, regular decision, that unbinding agreement, and then virtual and online programs as well to get to know more about us like this. And then on this slide, you can see some of the differences between us, some differences in being test-free, test optional, demonstrated interest, which is demonstrating that you're interested in that college. Schools that do that would like to see engagement with them. This is a great example of demonstrated interest. Others do not evaluate that. Some of us have interviews that students can conduct either over the summer or during the school year. So definitely look at all of our admission pages to learn more about our specific processes, but we'll go ahead and transition into each of our schools.
Amazing. Thank you, Kyla. Hi, everybody. My name is Trey Hammond, and I'm an Assistant Dean of Admission at Pomona College. I'm the founding member of the Claremont Colleges. It's going first in the order here. You'll get a sense of how that goes from here on out. I'm also, similar to Kyla, an alum of the school I'm representing, so I'm from the class of 22, so also happy to answer questions about that later on. Speaking about Pomona, though, each school, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, was founded with the theme of sort of like the decade that it was founded in. That was what happened after Pomona. Pomona was originally created with the idea of emulating that East Coast liberal arts experience on the West Coast. So in thinking about what that means, we were hoping to create an experience that combined all the things you've been hearing about so far, that small class size, residential school environment, students being able to explore a wide variety of disciplines before ultimately deciding on a major and pursuing that through, graduate school or career in the future. Those things that were hallmarks of sort of like East Coast institutions, we wanted to bring that to sunny Southern California. And so that's sort of a way that you can think about Mona in terms of being sort of like generalist and a school that's interested in bringing a lot of lifelong learners. We are the largest campus with almost 1,800 students, and we offer 48 different majors. I'll go ahead and ask to go to the next slide. And as I mentioned, we really do appreciate the idea of intellectual curiosity when it comes to thinking about not only our current students on campus, but also in thinking about students who are applying to our school and we think may be a good fit for our institution. So sometimes, I guess, in thinking about how you can put your best foot forward when thinking about applying to Mona, for example, I would ask you to think about your whys. So not only, kind of like who you are and what you do, but also why you do the things you do, whether that's in the classroom, outside the classroom. So I challenge you in approaching your essays and reflecting on kind of all the things that you've been involved in, the person that you've become over the course of your formative years, whether applying for first year or transfer admission. Be thinking about, why is it that you're interested in the things that you're interested in and kind of what brings that, what's that unique sort of flair that you hope to bring to the campus, or how can a future college campus help you in achieving those goals that may be associated with those interests that you have. Along those lines, when it comes to being on campus, we have a lot of experiential learning opportunities for students to take advantage of. So as you can see there, 62% of our students participate in research with faculty, and over 75% of our students complete some sort of internship along the course of their 4 years here. Between those two numbers, over 80% of our students will do at least one of those experiences, and over 70% will actually complete two of them. So it really is a testament to the fact of what Rochelle was talking about earlier, where you're not having to compete with any graduate level students for these sorts of opportunities, as we are all completely undergraduate institutions. And so we can give these opportunities to students as early as their first year or summer after their first year in terms of our summer research opportunities, for example. There are a few things that I can answer in that case in the Q&A, but moving along, we are a school that's driven to make a difference, that is committed to access and equity, and we do offer, as we mentioned earlier, 100% need-based financial aid, and at Pomona, we are able to also say that we are loan-free when it comes to offering that aid, as well as need-blind. So just to briefly talk about what those mean, need blind for students who are either US citizens abroad or attending school in the US means that your family's, financial need or lack thereof has no impact on the evaluation of your application. Whereas for students who do not fall into those buckets would be read need aware, in which case those could have an impact. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of things that make a competitive applicant to our school. At the end of the day, we are able to offer for students who apply for financial aid and are accepted and qualify for financial aid, 100% need-based aid with no Lone Star financial aid awards. So for students for whom, thinking about affordability in college, and if that's an important piece for you, that's something that's definitely on our minds, and a way that students can be kind of thinking about how they lead or approach their application, whether through Common App or, and speaking to specifically Pomona, we also accept the Coalition application as well as the QuestBridge application, and do have a couple of posse cohorts in Miami and Chicago. So if you have any questions about those, feel free to reach out, but I will go ahead and pass it along to Scripps. Thank you.
Hello again. Talking a bit about Scripps, we were the second Claremont College to be founded. Our founder, Ellen Browning Scripps, was a philanthropist and journalist who was actually found by the then president of Pomona College, who had just devised this idea of a consortium of liberal arts colleges in Southern California to expand upon Pomona without jeopardizing the small school community. And he found Ellen, and together they devised revised what was going to be 10 schools, as Rochelle was saying, but have been completed as 5. So Scripps was founded in 1926. All of our schools are really inspired by the time in which they were founded. Scripps being founded in the 20s during the suffragette movement and the Harlem Renaissance are the women's college focusing on interdisciplinary liberal arts studies. We use the umbrella term women's college, but our student body does have gender diversity within it. So there are trans men and non-binary students, but using the umbrella term of women's college to really focus on the marginalized gendered experience. Students of any gender can take classes at Scripps through cross-registration, and students at Scripps can take classes at the other schools. So it's actually very unlikely that students would be in an all-woman class. For myself, I only took one class that was all women, and it had 4 of the 5 colleges in it. So it really just depends on who registers for each course across the consortium, but really allowing students to experience gender equity and have that level of empowerment and support, learning to use their voices within our classroom. For our student body, some defining characteristics that we look for in applicants and that we see in our students is found in our mission statement. And actually, if you could bounce back to the other slide first. So within our mission statement, we have 4 pillars, which are leadership, service, integrity, and creativity. So as we read applications and as we engage with our students, those are 4 qualities that we see exemplified within our community. We're just over 1,000 students, and a majority of our students have multiple academic interests, which luckily we have over 60 majors for them to declare. So we can really support their interests in the sciences, the humanities, and the arts. And about 2/3 of our students are involved in at least 2 of those categories, if not all 3. So I'd say we're a really wonderful place for someone who either has way too many ideas of what they want to study in college or absolutely no idea what they want to study in college. They just know that they want to learn. Perfect. Thank you. To support our students' learning environment, we again have those small class sizes, but really focusing on building leadership skills within the classroom and as they prepare for a life in adulthood and beyond Scripps. So professional development and career preparation is something that we really value. About 90% of our first years will meet with our career center within the first month of coming to campus. So even well before they know what they want to major in, what they want to do with their lives, they're still having conversations about what that next summer looks like, what the next few summers look like to begin that process of focusing on professional development. Over 80% of our students complete at least 1 internship by the time that they graduate, and about 50% of our students do 3 or more. So really making sure that they have those tangible experiences to prepare themselves professionally. We also offer stipends and grants for students to either create their own internships or passion projects. They can find internships that are unpaid to make sure that somebody is compensating them for the work that they do, as well as providing living stipends for students to be able to eat and live wherever they are doing an internship or a job to make sure that they can really follow the experiences that best align with their professional development. Further encouraging students to experience life beyond Claremont. Over 60% of our students study abroad. We currently have partnership with over 120 programs in just under 50 countries. We don't organize these programs. We partner with other schools and institutions to make sure our students can do a lot more than what our 2-person office could complete themselves. Some of the programs our students will go on are organized by other Claremont College partners, but they could be anywhere in the world or some currently in the United States as well. So a variety of options for students to choose from, and every single experience is free. So all program fees, housing, airfare, and food are covered across the board, and anyone's financial aid or scholarships all stay intact. One other hallmark of the Scripps experience is a senior thesis, which all of our seniors will complete regardless of their major. And it's attached to my favorite day on campus, which is Capstone Day, where our seniors have the option of presenting their theses to the Scripps community. There's no grade or anything like that attached to it, so it's entirely optional, but a celebratory time on campus for our seniors to be congratulated and our underclassmen to see what an end result looks like in the different departments that they're interested in. I always love learning new things when I go to Capstone Day, so it's a very fun time, as well as our faculty, staff, and student soccer game, which I played in very recently. So a lot of very fun events and traditions on campus, like the one that is actually pictured on the slide, which is Wednesday afternoon tea, where every Wednesday, anyone in Claremont, so any of our other Claremont College partners are welcome to join for tea on Wednesday afternoon, where our dining hall staff brings out a savory and a sweet food option, tea and water for anyone to enjoy. And it's a tradition we started in 1931 to make sure faculty, staff, and students have time to be together. So really a wonderful time to see our community come together or just to grab free food and keep moving with their day. And then lastly, talking about scholarships. So aside from financial aid, which is need-based, we also do offer scholarships that range between $15,000 to $30,000 per year and are renewable all 4 years. There's no application. Applying to Scripps is applying to the scholarship. So just have to apply to us. And about 20 to 25% of our incoming class receives a scholarship. But with that, I'll turn it over to CMC.
All right, thank you. I'm back. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about CMC. So we were the third of the Claremont colleges established. We are the lucky middle child. So we were founded in 1946 at the end of World War II. And our founders were individuals who had been educated in the liberal arts. Some of them had gone to Pomona. They were really big fans of the liberal arts and then had gone on to serve in World War II. And in that experience, wanted to bring aspects that they learned in the military, things like leadership and practical applications of knowledge, back to the liberal arts. So we were founded as a liberal arts college that educates students for thoughtful and productive lives and responsible leadership in economics, government, or business, government, and the professions. And so when we talk about CMC, we're really focused on those ideas of responsible leaderships. Finding students who have shown significant leadership in their schools or their communities or their home life in high school, bringing that to campus, having a lot of opportunities for you to become strong leaders, to strengthen those skills, to really have those experiences and the practical experiences that go with them, things like research and internships, which I'll get to in just a second. And that founding and that mission really drives everything about CMC. So that really informs a lot of what we do. We're the second largest of the Claremont colleges with just under 1,400 students. And we have a really wide variety of majors at CMC and the ability to major at the other colleges. So at CMC, we do have a number of students who will have one of their majors or maybe their second major at another college in the 5 Cs. That way they can take advantage of some of the things that we're really strong in and something that we might not offer. So we have over 40 different areas of academic interest, including our brand new science center, and that is opening in the fall. We're really excited. The program has been up and running for over a year now, but the building is opening in the fall, and that is called the Integrated Science Program. And again, it really goes back to that mission of being able to educate students to address real world problems and get real experiences. So integrated science brings together aspects of biochem and physics to address some of the big problems in the world, focused mainly around the planet, so environment and climate, the brain, neuroscience, cognitive science, and human health. So pre-med or any other type of human health that you would be interested in. So definitely, I could talk all day about it, but I definitely encourage you to look it up and learn a little bit more on our website about that. A little bit more about our student body. So I said we are the second largest of the 5 Cs, and we have just over 15% of our students are international students, and they represent 46 countries. We currently have about 45 states plus DC, Guam, and Puerto Rico represented on campus. And we do have over 100 study abroad opportunities in more than 45 countries. So our students are also able to take advantage of that, very similar to what Kyla was talking about at Scripps, that ability to go and get new experiences across the world. And at CMC, we also have a program in Washington, D.C. that is extremely popular. And for that program, you live in Washington, D.C. for an entire semester and do a full-time internship Monday to Friday, and then on the weekends take classes. So it's really about getting that hands-on practical experience. We call it learning for the sake of doing, really being able to get real world experience while you're still a student. And with that, over 90% of our students participate in at least one internship while they're at CMC. 75% of them do research with faculty. We have 11 research institutes and centers on our campus at CMC. Many of them are actually in the building in this photo. So that's really convenient for us. And we really want students to have 4 years to find what they're passionate about, learn a lot about it, but also put those skills into action. Like my colleagues have been saying, we're also Common App. We also accept the Coalition app. We're Questbridge Partner School. We are test optional, but we do highly recommend that students complete an interview. Interviews are done virtually and in person throughout the entire summer for students who are going to be seniors. If you're not going to be a senior in high school, then don't worry about it yet. But we definitely want to get you thinking about those interviews as part of our application process sooner rather than later to make sure that you get a spot. The last thing that I really like to highlight about CMC that I think goes back to that mission and the way that we really put it into action is our resident assistants, or the RAs in our dorm. We don't let just anybody sign up to be an RA. To be an RA, you have to go through an application process, and it's only available to seniors. So we look for students who have spent 3 years on campus showing incredible community service and leadership and giving back to other students to be the leader in the dorm, to be that first person for the first years, but also for the sophomores and juniors to really be able to look to and create a community within the dorms. So we're really, passionate about finding those ways to enhance leadership and give students that opportunity to create a stronger community. And with that, I am going to pass it on to Harvey Mudd.
Ready. Thank you, Rochelle. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin. This is your first time hearing from me. I am from Harvey Mudd College. I'm an admissions counselor here. And let me share a little bit about Harvey Mudd College. So we were founded in 1955. For any of the history buffs here, that is after the atomic bomb era, right at the start of the space race era. Any Oppenheimer fans in here maybe know that. And so we are really a school in thinking about what was happening at this time that is really conscious about just because we can, does that mean we should? And thinking about how the innovations in society are a reflection of sort of ethics. And so we're the liberal arts college of engineering, science, and mathematics. And truly, we are looking for students who are not only passionate about STEM, but frankly, who find themselves inseparable from those humanities, social sciences, and the arts. So whether you're an aspiring engineer or mathematician or physicist, we want you to not only be interested in those fields that you intend to study, but also across different STEM disciplines, as well as those humanities, social sciences, and the arts, because we believe that those make better scientists, but also scientists who understand the impact of their work on society. And that is a really intentional piece for us there, for you to think about that impact that you will have in your future STEM work. Now, out of all of the Claremont colleges, we are the smallest. We only have 905 students on our campus. And so you're going to find that the same people that are in your classes, or especially the same ones in the dining hall and your clubs. But I think in terms of our course offerings, or what our curriculum looks like, there are really 3 main components that our students are really engaged in that help us accomplish our mission statement. So the first one is going to be our core curriculum. Our core curriculum is the classes that you will take within your first 2 years at the college, that every single student, regardless of what they study, we'll stay on the previous slide. If we could scroll back to the previous slide. All right, I'll just continue talking about the core curriculum as we forgot the slide here. So every single student, regardless of major, is taking within their first 2 years in the college in every single discipline we have to offer. So this is really great because if you need homework help, there's those 900 other students who have been there, done that, and can help you with that. And it's also really good because it means the kinds of conversations that you're going to be having with others are going to be of a much higher order, because you all share this interdisciplinary foundation across STEM that allows you to collaborate with others when it comes to research or projects or labs. The second part of our curriculum is going to be the majors that we offer. In terms of majors, we have a small selection of majors that are really focused on STEM. And so we have everything from math to physics to engineering to computer science, and those are very broad offerings there, but also a lot of joint majors, things like mathematical and computational biology, computer science and physics as a joint major, computer science and math, chemistry and climate. So all within the STEM realms, but lots of opportunities to combine your various STEM interests. And then the last part of our curriculum is the humanities, social sciences, and the arts. So we require our students to do to do a breadth requirement, which requires them to take 5 different classes in 5 different disciplines beyond STEM, and then 4 classes within the same discipline known as a concentration requirement. So it's kind of like a mini minor that you're getting in the humanities, social sciences, and the arts, even though you're going to a primarily STEM school. And so if we can go ahead and move on to the next slide now. So what do our students do with this curriculum? Well, if I can give you an example of something that our students have been working on in the previous years, one of our research project teams here at Harvey Mudd College, we're working on this tiny little robot that can go into your brain, identify brain tumors, extract them, cauterize the wound, and leave your brain entirely on its own, entirely made out of plastic. And at Harvey Mudd College, that isn't just an exceptional project that people are working on. That's actually the norm, because 100% of students are doing research during their time on their campus. So they're doing either very academic research where they're becoming co-authors on papers across the world, or working on clinic where companies come to us, they pay us $65K on average to assemble a team of students from different disciplines and backgrounds to work on these really high impact projects. And it is the access to these kinds of opportunities on our campus that leads to a lot of success for our students. So you'll see there that the median starting salary is over 6 figures. But on top of having really great access to STEM opportunities on our campus, we also have quite the intentional community here. Our students are really proud of the honor code that our students abide by. Basically, what this means is that we really trust our students to uphold the values of our community here, and it provides them with a lot of different benefits, whether that means 24 access to academic facilities, or that means like a lot of our exams can be taken remotely because our faculty trust our students and have the data that shows that they take them with integrity, or it even just means that people will take care of one another here at the college. I think we have a very intentional community. As well as that's represented in our dorm culture as well. Each of our dorms kind of has their own personality, and part of what allows our students to create that personality in the dorms is that it's because current students pick the first years they want in their dorms. So before you even step foot on a campus, our students have already done research into you, already run data analytics, and already spent weeks fighting over which first years are going to be in charge of taking care of. So I think it's a very friendly community that we have on our campus. And then finally, of course, we're a very diverse campus as well. So you'll notice that our campus doesn't look like what STEM currently looks like right now. For example, the fact that our gender ratio is pretty much equal, and that is represented across all of our majors. You're going to be surrounded by people who come from similar experiences you in STEM, but also possibly very different experiences you as well. And that's going to push you outside of your comfort zone as you're thinking about interacting with folks who will challenge you with different perspectives and ideas. So that is everything that I have to present about Harvey Mudd College, and I will pass it on to Pitzer.
Thanks, Kevin. Hi, folks. My name is David Gervin. I'm the Senior Associate Director at Pitzer College, the youngest of the 5 Claremont colleges. So I like to say we have the most energy. I was the youngest of 3, so I like to make that joke. So we were founded in 1963. So similar to my Claremont colleagues, when it comes to the type of institution that we very much are a mission-driven institution, and very much was the foundation of what was happening at the time in America. We are the youngest of the Claremont colleges. We have about a student body of about 1,100 students. We have about 40 majors and 20 minors on campus. Some of the more popular programs of recent time: environmental analysis, political studies, economics, sociology, neuroscience, our intercollegiate media studies. Those are just a snapshot of some of our more popular programs. But certainly what distinguishes Pitzer amongst the Claremont colleges and other Labard schools is our emphasis on being mission-driven. So at the time in 1963, obviously the civil rights movement, hippie culture, the Chicano movement within California, very much integral to us being a social justice institution right from the get-go. And what really delineates that is our 5 core values. So when talking about each of them, I'll kind of give you a little bit of a lay of the land of each core value and what separates them and integrates them to Pitzer. When it comes to academics, if you want to hit the next slide as well, when it comes to interdisciplinary learning, it's very much a self-directed learning, and flexible academics is very key. I always emphasize flexibility for Pitzer students when it comes to the academics. We don't have the quote-unquote core curriculum that you might be experiencing now in high school, or you might imagine at a lot of liberal arts institutions. We have something called breadth of knowledge requirements, where it's less about taking a specific course and more about taking a competency within a realm of education. So you're able to still be excited about classes while also be pushed outside your comfort zone. So even if it's a first-year writing seminar, for example, that could be geared towards closer to your major as opposed to just an English 101 that might be in another institution. So I've never known any Pitzer students that have been stressed about our requirements because there is that strong flexibility and interdisciplinary learning built into our curriculum. When it comes to those general distribution requirements, because they aren't as concrete, that allows more flexibility for students to double major. About a fourth of students double major at Pitzer as well. We also allow students to major off campus across the consortium. So for any majors that aren't offers at Pitzer, we allow the flexibility across the consortium as well with approval for those institutions. I always emphasize that because computer science, Harvey Mudd definitely would emphasize, is popular. Still possible, but definitely as you would work with your advisors through that process. Also, students have the ability to create combined or self-designed majors as well. So some examples that come to mind is urban justice studies or feminist public health. So able to utilize the classes as well as the passions and excitement of what excites them within social justice to create their own major as well. And about 5% of students will take advantage of that. When it comes to intercultural understanding, over half of our students will study abroad at least once. Why it is so popular for students to kind of focus on that core value is we have 8 direct run programs through Pitzer. So it's a great opportunity for you and a cohort of other Pitzer students with Pitzer professors to take advantage of study abroad programs, whether it's learning about architecture in Parma, Italy, or ecotourism in Nepal. You students definitely have an advantage that there's a lot in California, but there's not everything. And we want students to take advantage of that. On campus, certainly intercultural understanding will focus on the student leadership that students will gain within affinity group organizations or 11. Other things like 30% of our faculty were born outside the US, so definitely having that intentionality to bring not just to add a non-Western influence and thought into the classroom so students can learn about perspectives different than what they were experiencing from their own at high school, and having opportunities for different perspectives, not only in studying abroad, but also on campus as well. When it comes to environmental sustainability, I think that's our most visible and obvious our core value. I like to say that our students are friendly, but our campus is prickly. And that's because of all the California cacti. It's a bad joke, but it's because we are drought resistant, tolerant to our campus. So 75% of our campus is native California plants. So I think if you visit any of the Claremont colleges, when you come to Pitzer, it's definitely what I imagine the most California, rightfully so, for our sustainability when it comes to that end. I'm originally from Boston, so just seeing palm trees and students carrying a surfboard just feels very Californian. But also when you walk around on campus, it is impossible not to be more sustainable due to the design of our urban planning. We were the first school on the West Coast to divest from fossil fuel industry for endowment. So I think when it comes to that, it was student initiative and driven. So when it comes to sustainability, you definitely were one of those schools that was banning plastic straws like in the 90s and finding ways to really live up to our core values for sustainability. So I think it's not surprising that our most popular major is environmental analysis relating to that core value. Fourth of the 5 core values is student engagement. It's my personal favorite of the core values. I think when it comes to rankings, those aren't always everything for college, but I think something that is always consistent is having most student in government. And that is because we run on a shared governance model. So our Student Senate is very active when it comes to every single decision-making body on our campus, from faculty hiring committees to this campus aesthetics committee. Students have a little seat at the table to make differences on our campus. So I think when it comes to us being the youngest, that is a real clear, evident opportunity for students to shape their college experience and not have to deal with sometimes the struggles of slow-moving things that can often exist within higher education. So knowing that senior leadership and things like communication, leadership opportunities is really integrated also into Pitzer. And I know we're looking at time, so just quickly, our last is social responsibility. So really just fine-tuning and leaning into the passion of communities of social justice and how that comes into play. My favorite example of how it is integrated for Pitzer students is our social justice theory and social justice praxis courses. So that is a part of our breadth of knowledge requirements that I mentioned. And that is where students will partner with a local organization in the area that focuses on issues. So whether it be trans rights activism or immigration law, students will be able to, or Inside Out program, where students can learn about justice, critical justice education. I think that those are great opportunities for students to get outside of the classroom, to have give back to communities and be of service and with service, not just doing community service. So I think when it comes by and large, hopefully that snapshot of our 5 core values really gives you a sense of who are the type of students that succeed at Pitzer. They're very much the students that are not just looking for a kind of cookie cutter liberal arts experience. They want to find new passions, but also immediately thrive within those passions right off the bat when it comes to just finding eager students that want to be very driven, but also very collaborative. I'm originally from Massachusetts, so I think my biggest adjustment is just how friendly and nice the students are. You don't always associate that with everyone. So I think when it comes to how involved and how driven Pitzer students are, you're going to find that, but I also find that they're much more collaborative and friendly through that process as well. So I'll kind of transition it to open up to Gear to see if there's any questions that we can answer to all the colleges.
Yeah, thank you everybody for sharing a little bit about each of the colleges. I think we're all very different, but also have a lot of overlap with one another, and it's beautiful to see. We're gonna go ahead and open up for some live questions with the remaining time that we have here. We have about 10 minutes, and so I'll be moderating this section. And I see a couple of the live questions right now. I think this first one is pretty quick that we can answer. Is housing guaranteed for 4 years at your college?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, real quick. I think also in tandem to this question, if we could also talk about what our housing options are with that question, just two birds, one stone.
Yeah, I guess I can start. I'd say yes, and that housing typically either looks like single, double, or triple, or suite style living on Pomona's campus, which is when you either have your own room or a double room where you would see you and your friends with like a common room and your own restroom. And then occasionally students will opt to live like off campus, but for us, 98% of our students live on campus with 94% all 4 years.
Similar to Pomona, we have housing all 4 years. We have mostly dorm, single, double, triple, plus we do have apartments that we own. They're called senior apartments. Technically, juniors can live there, but the seniors usually grab them all up.
Also provide housing all 4 years, singles, doubles, triples, quads, suites, apartments, and 3 houses that usually like a friend group will take and all live together there.
I don't know if Dave wants to share, or I can share first.
Not going nowhere. So for Pitzer, sure, I'll share. So when it comes to us, we can't officially say that we guarantee housing for all 4 years, but we have found been within recent history, the vast majority of students will live on campus all 4 years, about 85%. The reason why I say we can't guarantee it is because we have a large population of students that study abroad that we found out in the pandemic was a challenge when they weren't able to. So that's why we can't say officially. But also in addition to that, we don't share housing across all 5 campuses. So some upperclassmen might choose to live off campus with maybe their best friend at one of the other campuses. So we can't officially do that while on campus. I will say within Pitzer students, that tends to be a little bit popular, particularly for seniors to live off campus if they want to, still within biking or walking or razor scooter distance of campus.
Yeah, so for Harvey Mudd College, 99% of students live on campus all 4 years. It's not a requirement to live on campus, so we have quite a number of students that, again, all similar to the others, live off campus or maybe are commuting students and whatnot. So certainly not a requirement, but you'll find that a lot of students do want to live on campus because, as I mentioned during our presentation, there's a really large dorm culture, and it's kind of difficult to miss out on that because that's kind of where all your friends are at. In terms of offerings, we have singles, doubles, triples. We have Jack and Jill style, where you're like, there's 2 rooms sharing a bathroom. We have apartment style living with, yes, kitchen. So if you're somebody that wants to cook instead of eating in the dining hall, but I don't know why you wouldn't go to the dining hall, then we also have that as an option as well. We also offer in one of our residential halls, housing for specific like affinity groups, so living learning communities. So if there's a particular affinity group that you are a part of and you want to live with others who share that affinity group, that we also have those kinds of options on our campus as well. Okay, perfect. Thank you everybody for sharing about housing. The next question that we have here to be answered live is, how would you summarize the difference in weight placed upon grades in classes and AP scores? Essentially, are class grades looked at and regarded differently than scores on APs?
Well, I think this goes back a lot to what we talked about at the beginning with holistic application review and how we all also have like different sort of supplements and everything we do. Your admission is not based purely on your grades, your AP test. Some of us don't even accept SAT or ACTs. So it's really about the whole application and all of the things that we're looking at, because we're looking for fit, we're looking at your writing, we're looking at your extracurricular activities, your recommendations. So when it comes to academics, recommendation is always, to be doing your best and to challenge yourself to take advanced courses. Sounds like you've got a lot of APs. So just making sure that you're challenging yourself within that context of your high school. But there's no, rule for the academic portion because it's holistic.
Thank you. I think, I don't know if there's anybody that wants to add anything on that, but I think that was pretty robust as is. Next question regarding financial aid, and this might differ from school to school. Is financial aid purely need-based, or are merit scholarships also available? I'll speak on Harvey Mudd College first, since that wasn't a part of my particular section. At Harvey Mudd College in particular, we meet 100% need-based aid, but on top of need-based aid, we also offer merit scholarships. Some of those merit scholarships you're already automatically considered for just by applying to Harvey Mudd College, but some of them do require additional supplemental essay questions, and so you can go online and see if you are eligible to apply for any of those additional ones, but we at Harvey Mudd College do offer both need-based and merit-based aid.
I'll jump in for Pitzer. Every student that applies is considered for merit scholarships, but we are very frank that our emphasis is more so on need-based aid. We do guarantee we'll meet 100% of demonstrated need. For Pitzer, we do require the FAFSA and CSS profile. I know that's different depending on the school, but that is what we require. And for merit, every student basically through the holistic process would be considered whether or not they'd get that.
Ditto Pitzer.
And pretty much the same in CMC as well. We meet full need and we have a select number of scholarships that students are considered for at the time of admission.
And as I mentioned earlier, Pomona is 100% need-based and loan-free. That does mean that we do not offer merit-based or athletic scholarships.
Okay. All right, thank you everyone for that. Another question that we have here is, maybe this is a good question for some of the alumni that we have on our panel today, which we are very lucky to have. What are some ways that 5C students interact outside of like classes? So if you want to recall some of the moments that your students are currently doing now, or your favorite pastimes.
You can go first, Kyla. No, you got it. You got it.
Yeah, so I actually surprisingly spent a lot of time doing things that, or going to events for things that I personally did not want to do, but I just wanted to show up for the people around me. Very uniquely, Trey and I knew each other doing theater together. So that was an off-campus kind of thing that I did that was on his campus. So that was a lot of my time. But separate from that, I would go to roller derby games, a cappella concerts, dance concerts, poetry reading nights. Went to a lot of like concerts in Los Angeles. That's one of the benefits of being in SoCal. Try a bunch of restaurants in LA or in the Claremont Village. But it's definitely very easy to spend all of your time in Claremont. There's way too many things to do for you to get bored pretty easily. But definitely venturing beyond Claremont. I'd say like once every other week for me personally, but everyone's very different.
Yeah, and I would just add that I think that one of the big things that surprised me about, I guess, just generally college versus high school was how much free time I had. Like, I think that sometimes coming from a high school environment, you may expect that school will look the exact same, but it's actually quite different in that, you know, a typical class might meet like twice a week for like an hour and 15 minutes each. And you're taking 4 classes as opposed to, you know, 6 or 7 or however many you're taking at the moment. And so it really makes it so that the assignments get more rigorous. You have longer readings, you have longer essays, you have more intense lab components. But at the same time, it also is kind of that balance of trust from your professors that you will get the work done and you'll spend your time growing socially. So I think that honestly, if I were to speak about my experience at Pomona, it was honestly like, you know, of course, very academic, but I'd say it was maybe like 50% of it. Because 50%, you know, honestly, most of my time was spent outside of class where I was either, you know, maybe studying or working with my friends, or I was, you know, doing theater or a cappella or dance or going to different events, whether on campus or off, and or going to the beach, going to the mountains. So you find that students find a lot of ways to fill their time for sure. It's a fun time.
Yeah, okay. I think we have one more time for one more question here. How did the feel of attending the Claremont Colleges compare to attending high school in terms of student size and knowing people in classes and around in the hallways? And that's also a kind of alumni-driven question.
Yeah, I'll answer that so fast because we have like no time. But it feels pretty similar. We're a pretty small community altogether, probably around like 7,000 people. But you're in those small classes, those really tailored clubs. So you do get to know people pretty quickly, or you're like 1 degree of separation from anyone else. So it's incredibly easy to get to know new people, but you're never going to get to a point where you know absolutely everyone in the consortium. So kind of in that middle road where you feel familiarity very quickly, but there's enough new people. But if you're used to a pretty big school, this is going to feel much smaller.
And yeah, I came from a smaller school setting, so it was about like, 350 people in my high school. And so with that, like that became too small by the time I was graduating. And so I think it's nice in that Claremont, I always say that you have a lot of mutual friends, I guess, where the closer you get usually to your dorm, the more people you'll know, especially, as our campuses usually have some form of like residence life community sort of thing. So in those cases, it can definitely feel that way, or, you wave to some folks walking around campus, but if I were to go across the street to a different school, then usually I would be a bit more of a stranger. And so it's kind of a nice balance in that way, I'd say.
Yeah. And with that, I think it is 5 o'clock, so that is all that we have time for. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot. And of course, if you have follow-up questions, come visit or chat with each of our colleges individually. Just a reminder that this recording is available to you on our YouTube channel shortly after we end this event. So if you want to reference anything, it'll be on there. But otherwise, we look forward to hopefully seeing you in the future. Thanks so much for being here. Bye-bye.